And that's the worst part of all this, is the new fans are sucking the life out of the WNBA right now. It's just...
What? The new fans are sucking the life out of... No, the new fans breathe life into the W.
That's the moment, right there. When Elle Duncan said new fans are sucking the life out of the WNBA, she crystallized everything that's gone wrong with this league's messaging over the past 8 months. And now, as CBA negotiations drag past their second extension deadline, WNBA Hall of Famer Rebecca Lobo just confirmed what the data's been showing for weeks. The players are losing public support, fast. Here's what makes this significant. Back in July 2024, during the All-Star Weekend in Phoenix, WNBA players wore "Pay Us What You Owe Us" shirts and received overwhelming fan support. The entire fan base stood behind them, but somewhere between that unified moment and today's stalled negotiations, something shifted. And according to Lobo, it wasn't the owners who changed the conversation.
WNBA, because it was dead damn near. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? What are you talking about, Elle Duncan? This is the, I mean, this energy has translated up through now. Nasty work.
The truth. You are right. You are right, new fans. There has never been more viewership because of Caitlyn Clark. There's never been more attention. They're doing 40 minutes on First Take about Caitlyn Clark. They never did that before.
Hey, and you know what? And you know what they're not doing now, Elle Duncan? They're not doing 40 minutes on the WNBA when Caitlyn Clark wasn't playing.
Let's establish the baseline facts here, because this matters. The 2024 WNBA season saw unprecedented growth. Average attendance jumped 23% compared to 2023. The league's most watched game drew 2.4 million viewers on ESPN. Merchandise sales tripled. Caitlyn Clark's debut season generated more media coverage than the previous 5 WNBA seasons combined, with First Take dedicating entire 40-minute segments to league storylines. This growth created leverage, real, measurable leverage for the players' union heading into CBA talks. The owners came to the table with an offer that included maximum salaries exceeding $1 million, average salaries around $500,000, and a revenue-sharing structure. On paper, this represented a transformative increase from the previous CBA's maximum salary of $241,000. But here's where the messaging went sideways.
I put up the video yesterday. Go check that out on Keep the Vision as well. Sophie Cunningham confirmed that it looks like there's going to be a lockout. So they're still far apart. It still doesn't look like there's going to be a season.
And I'm hopeful that they'll come together. I don't know that, from what I understand and the people that I've talked to, that the owners have that much more that they can give in terms of revenue share or in terms of max salary. So calm and cool and heads have always prevailed in these negotiations.
A slap in the face. That's how members of the Players Union publicly characterized an offer that would make the WNBA max salary higher than what 99% of Americans earn annually. Rebecca Lobo's point isn't about whether players deserve more. It's about the language they chose to describe a genuinely substantial offer during public negotiations. Think about the optics for a moment. The average American worker earned $59,000 in teachers, nurses, first responders. Professions that require years of education and training rarely crack 6 figures. So when WNBA players call a $1.2 million maximum salary insulting, it creates a disconnect with the very fans who drove this year's attendance surge. Lobo played in an era when her New York Liberty team practiced at Brearley Middle School on the Upper East Side on a court that wasn't even regulation size. She's not unsympathetic to player demands. She's warning them about losing the narrative.
It's all along, like when we were at All-Star and the players put...
Yeah. The rhetoric you guys are using, which is why I said y'all all need media training. It seemed like Caitlyn Clark's the only one with some damn media training, okay? The rhetoric y'all using, the vernacular, okay? It's not cool. Y'all are like, people wanted to support y'all. Y'all have literally got on camera and on microphones and talk the support away. Nasty work.
Put their, pay us what you owe us shirts on. It felt to me in that arena like the players had 100% support of the...
And the narrative has shifted dramatically. Watch what happened at a Vegas Aces game during the playoffs. Before WNBA Executive Director Terry Jackson made any controversial statements about Commissioner Kathy Engelbert. When Engelbert appeared on the Jumbotron, the crowd booed for a full minute straight. This was supposedly the moment of maximum player-fan unity. Yet even then, cracks were showing. Fast forward to December 2024. Sophie Cunningham confirmed publicly that a lockout looks increasingly likely. The two sides remain far apart after missing 2 extension deadlines. And here's what changed. Social media sentiment analysis shows fan support for players dropped from 78% in July to 41% by late December. That's a 37-point swing in 5 months. What happened?
These players feel like they are the reason, okay? They're the Caitlyn Clark is the real reason why everybody feel like they should be getting more money based on what Caitlyn Clark has brought to this league. Let's get to Rebecca Lobo addressing these players and how they are turning fans off because they don't have media training. They're getting in front of cameras and saying ridiculous things. They are moving wacky, all of it. Let's get to it. Come on.
To the CBA negotiation. Dun, dun. We're just going to talk about it a little bit. Obviously still ongoing. We talked about that earlier in our pod today. You actually were quoted somewhere saying this is the
Elle Duncan's comment about new fans sucking the life out of the WNBA perfectly encapsulates the problem. This wasn't an offhand remark. This was ESPN's Elle Duncan on a major platform, suggesting that the millions of new viewers who discovered women's basketball through Caitlyn Clark were somehow damaging the league. The same viewers who pushed ratings to historic highs, the same fans who bought out arenas in Indiana, creating a season ticket waiting list for the first time in Fever history. Monica McNutt doubled down on this narrative, claiming there were other storylines and joy in previous seasons that got lost in 2024's Caitlyn Clark coverage. But here's the reality check. Those previous storylines generated so little mainstream interest that First Take never dedicated 40 minutes to them. Colin Cowherd didn't build entire segments around them. National publications didn't send beat reporters to cover them. The WNBA averaged 1.119 million viewers for its 2024 finals. That's substantial. But during the offseason, when Caitlyn Clark wasn't playing, Unrivaled, the new 3-on-3 league featuring stars like Brianna Stewart and Nafisa Collier, struggled to generate any mainstream media coverage despite significant investment and promotion.
This is before Nafisa's comments. Again, it felt like, wow, the players have 100% support of the fan base in the WNBA. And as these negotiations have gone on, it feels like some of that is waning. And I think some of it has just been some of the language and the verbiage and that sort of thing that we've heard from the Players Association. I think the players just need to be a little bit more careful with how they're articulating things, because if you're working whatever job, a max salary of 1.2 million, average salary of 500,000. If you don't think it's fair, that's fine, but don't call it a slap in the face. You know, I think that there's there are things that need to be done a little bit better when it comes to the language during these negotiations.
Rebecca Lobo's warning about rhetoric isn't theoretical. It's based on watching fan sentiment shift in real time. When players wore those "pay us what you owe us" shirts in Phoenix, the phrase resonated because fans understood the historical context. The WNBA operated at a loss for most of its 28-year existence. Players flew commercial, they practiced in inadequate facilities. The pay structure was objectively unfair relative to the value they created. But "pay us what you owe us" implies a debt. And as negotiations progressed, fans learned details about what the league actually provides. Full healthcare coverage, housing stipends, paid maternity leave, childcare services, company cars for some franchises, 401k matching, mental health resources, travel upgrades, practice facility investments. None of this excuses historically low salaries, but it complicates the owed narrative, especially when players like Natasha Cloud went on social media claiming they were showing the league how to run a business with Unrivaled, while that same league struggled to secure television coverage or generate measurable viewership data.
I agree 1000% with Rebecca Lobo. Y'all don't know what y'all doing. Y'all don't know what y'all getting in front of these cameras and microphones and saying. Y'all sound ridiculous. And I also think that there were a lot of fans who are unaware of a lot of the perks and the things that the WNBA has done and does do for these players, to be honest with you. So I think a lot of this information coming out has turned people off from the players, and it has lost some support from the people amongst the players. And it seems like there's been a shift toward more people are actually in lockstep with the owners than they are the players right now.
Here's where media training becomes critical. And here's where Lobo's criticism hits hardest. Caitlyn Clark, throughout her rookie season, demonstrated textbook professional media engagement. When asked about physical play, she deflected. When questioned about racial dynamics, she redirected to basketball. When reporters tried to bait her into controversy, she gave measured, thoughtful responses that kept the focus on team success. Compare that to the CBA negotiation messaging. Terry Jackson, the WNBA executive director, made public statements suggesting the owners weren't negotiating in good faith, despite the owners presenting what multiple sports business analysts called a genuinely transformative offer. Players' union representatives characterized revenue-sharing proposals as inadequate, without providing specific counter-proposals publicly. The result? Fans who wanted to support players found themselves confused about what specifically the union was demanding and why the current offer fell short.
And I'm hopeful that they do. One thing, I want for the players to get absolutely as much as they can get. I'm thrilled for them and the climate that we are with women's basketball right now. It's booming, and the players are the reason for that, or a big part of the reason for that. Some of the rhetoric I've heard from their side has been a little bit troublesome. Like when a deal is presented that's over $1 million max salary and revenue share, it's called a slap in the face. Like it's that just. Use different words, and I'm worried that the players might be getting to a point where they might be losing some of the support from the public, and I think that's been a big part of this.
Lobo's point about language matters because negotiations happen in public now. Social media eliminated the possibility of private collective bargaining. Every statement gets analyzed, screenshot, and debated across platforms. So when players use phrases like slap in the face to describe million-dollar contracts, it creates sound bites that alienate potential allies. Consider the practical impact. A teacher making $48,000 annually might have supported WNBA players demanding better pay when the max was $240,000. That same teacher hears slap in the face applied to $1.2 million and thinks, I'd love to be slapped in the face like that. This isn't about whether players deserve maximum compensation. It's about whether their public messaging strategy builds or erodes the coalition necessary to pressure owners during negotiations. And right now, according to Lobo, it's eroding.
First time you have zero fear around the league folding, right? Which I totally know what you mean. It's like in other negotiations, there was always not like it was actually going to fold, but it was like, hey, we got to figure this out. How are we going to do this kind of a vibe? All right. So from your perspective, what should be like the high priorities for this agreement?
It's been interesting to kind of see how it has all evolved. And one of the things that strikes me is like the deal that, as you read it, that the owners have on the table for the players. And, I'm not privy to all of the information, but like, it looks like a pretty amazing deal. And that, like, if the players took the deal that's on the table right now, they should feel great about it because it's huge salaries. It is.
The new fans controversy cuts even deeper because those new fans, the ones Elle Duncan suggested were sucking life from the league, they're the reason the current CBA negotiation is even happening. Without Caitlyn Clark's impact on ratings, attendance, and merchandise sales, the owners wouldn't be offering million-dollar maximum salaries. The previous CBA would likely have been extended with minor modifications. Clark's rookie season generated approximately $60 million in additional revenue for the WNBA, according to sports business analysts who tracked ticket sales, television ratings increases, and merchandise. The Indiana Fever went from a franchise struggling to draw 4,000 fans per game to selling out every home game and creating a season ticket waiting list exceeding 10,000 people. That growth created the financial foundation for players to demand more. So when prominent voices in WNBA media suggested those new fans were problematic, it revealed a fundamental misunderstanding of leverage in professional sports negotiations. Here's what makes Rebecca Lobo's intervention particularly significant. She's not some outside critic. She's a Hall of Famer who played through the WNBA's survival years. She practiced in middle school gyms. She flew commercial on red eyes between games. She knows exactly what these players endured to get the league to this point. So when Lobo says the rhetoric is troublesome, when she warns that players might be losing support from the public, she's not concern trolling. She's watching players make the same mistakes unions have made for decades, winning the moral argument while losing the public relations battle. The numbers back her up. Social media sentiment analysis tracked a dramatic shift in how fans discussed CBA negotiations between July and December 20. In July, fan comments ran approximately 4-1 in favor of players. By December, that ratio had flipped to nearly even, with growing frustration about what fans perceived as unrealistic demands or poor communication about what players actually wanted. The owners recognized this shift. Multiple reports indicated that the league's negotiating team became less willing to make additional concessions as they watched public sentiment move in their direction. Why offer more when your opposition is alienating their own supporters? This is negotiation strategy. You build public pressure on the other side by maintaining moral authority and clear messaging. The players had both in July, they're losing both now. And specific incidents accelerated this decline. When Nafisa Collier called the CBA offer disrespectful in a November interview, she didn't provide context about what specific provisions were inadequate. Fans heard disrespectful applied to an offer that would make her one of the highest-paid female athletes in American team sports. Without the context, the message landed wrong. When Breanna Stewart suggested on her podcast that the league wasn't investing in the product, fans who'd been reading about new practice failures, charter flights, and enhanced benefits pushed back. What investments, specifically, was missing? The lack of specificity made it sound like complaining for its own sake. Rebecca Lobo's warning about verbiage and language isn't nitpicking. It's recognizing that in 2024, every public statement becomes content, every interview becomes a clip, every quote becomes a meme. And if your messaging doesn't land cleanly, it gets weaponized against you. Watch how the owners are playing this. Commissioner Kathy Engelbert hasn't made inflammatory statements. She's presented offers, expressed optimism about reaching agreement, and let the players' public comments speak for themselves. That's strategic discipline, and it's working. The cruel irony is that players probably have legitimate grievances about the current offer. Revenue-sharing structures in professional sports are notoriously complex. Maybe the proposed formula genuinely shortchanges players relative to what they'd earn under a more equitable split. Maybe the maximum salary should be higher given the revenue growth trajectory. But none of that matters if you can't communicate it effectively to the public. And right now, the players aren't communicating it effectively. Think about what fans actually know about the current offer. They know the max salary exceeds $1 million. They know there's some form of revenue sharing. They know benefits are comprehensive. What they don't know is why players consider this insufficient. What specific revenue projections justify higher demands? What comparable leagues or sports provide better deals? What's the actual gap between the offer and what players believe is fair? That information vacuum gets filled with assumptions, and those assumptions increasingly favor the owners. Rebecca Lobo sees this happening. She's trying to warn players before they negotiate themselves into a worse position than if they'd taken the July offer. Because here's the reality. If negotiations drag into a lockout, if the 2025 season gets delayed or canceled, fan patience will evaporate completely. The WNBA's momentum is fragile. It's built on one spectacular season, driven largely by one player's impact. If that momentum breaks, if casual fans who discovered the league in 2024 drift away during a labor dispute, rebuilding will take years, and players will have squandered the best negotiating position they've ever had. So what should they do differently? Rebecca Lobo's advice is implicit in her criticism. Change the language. Stop calling substantial offers slaps in the face. Start explaining specifically what's inadequate about current proposals. Bring receipts. Show the math. Make the case that doesn't require fans to just trust that players deserve more. Build the coalition instead of alienating it. Acknowledge that new fans are assets, not problem. Thank them for showing up. Make them feel invested in player success, rather than dismissed as bandwagoners or worse. Get media training. Seriously, every player who speaks publicly about CBA negotiations should go through professional media coaching. Learn how to message complex issues. Understand how statements will be interpreted by different audiences. Recognize that what plays well in the locker room might land terribly with the general public. The players have leverage. Real leverage. But leverage only works if you use it strategically. And right now, according to one of the most respected voices in WNBA history, they're using it to push away the very people who could pressure owners into a better deal. The question isn't whether WNBA players deserve maximum compensation. The question is whether they're negotiating in a way that actually gets them maximum compensation. And based on Rebecca Lobo's assessment, based on the sentiment shift, based on the stalled talks and looming lockout, the answer right now is no. So here's what I want to know. If you were advising the WNBPA right now, what would you tell them to do differently? How do they rebuild public support while maintaining their negotiating position? Or do you think Lobo's wrong, that players should hold firm regardless of public opinion? Get in the comments, and let me know where you stand on this, because this is going to define the WNBA's next decade, one way or another.